Hello, it is Diane with Diane's Blue Hearts and Butterflies.com, and this is a continuing video for the August Black and White with Papa Color class. And this one is using a fun fold that I have seen so many times in so many places, and I really fell in love with it. But it kind of pops out. Each one of these kind of turns, so you have a kind of a different scene on each one, but then it kind of pops out and you can stand it up to be a displayed or whatever. And the one that I had watched, the independent demonstrator that I watched to get these measurements from was from Christina Reese, and she has been sharing a lot of wonderful tips and tricks and everything. Another person that I watched was Dawn Griffith, and she actually created the tower part here in the middle with a piece of designer series paper, and then just put her cardstock pieces, adhered it to that to create less bulk right here in the middle. And I kind of like that idea, but I was afraid it might be a little more complicated to explain to in a class for people to follow. So I went with this one that was very simple and easier to understand. So I wanted to go through that with you. The items that I used in this cards came from, are using products that came from the main catalog and from the holiday catalogs. The color and contour is found in the May-April 21-22 catalog on page 98, and it is an amazing kind of two-step stamp set. You can just do stamp the outline images and color them in, but they do have some of these stamps that actually kind of fill it like a watercolor, that you can use that to do that. There's also this little bud. Now, the black and white paper that I primarily used came from a host item, which you can earn if you host a party or place an order that is at least $150 merchandise order before shipping and tax. And it is called Pattern Play. It's on page 171 in the catalog. One side of this 48 sheet pack is black and white images. There are several of them. And then the opposing side is a color design. And it can be used in so many different ways. I also wanted to share, they do have in the January to December 21 mini catalog this paper that is kind of silvers and grays and whites and blacks that could be used as well if you wanted to create more of a Christmassy type card. Also, this is on page 37. That's the Peaceful Place. And then I did use the white glittered organdy ribbon, which is on this page as well, and some of the sequins, the subtle shimmer sequins that are on this page as well. There's some wonderful things. In the Celebration catalog that is good through August and September of 2021, there is a paper, stack of paper that you could earn with a $50 minimum merchandise order, and it is called Beautifully Penned. On one side is kind of this whiter images, and on the opposite side are the grays and the blacks that are really good to use. I also used a couple other stamp sets that were in the Celebration here. The Delicate Dahlias, I loved some of these little sayings. They fit very well on those small sides. It is free with a $100 minimum purchase order in this Celebration catalog. Remember, that ends the end of September 21. Also, again, if you order at least $150 merchandise, or you host a party that will total more than $150 in merchandise, You can also get for free an extra stamp set that is called In Your Words, and it has some wonderful uplifting messages and sentiments that could be used. I also used some of the words from this Biggest Wish. I forgot which page it is on, but it is in the main 21-22 catalog, so that you could find that. And then I did find a few words that were in Happy Thoughts. That one is a retired set out of the last catalog, but I still really love and enjoy that stamp set. I did want to share a tip. I shared it on my other video, but in case you didn't watch that one, with this stamp set, this single flower, I was having a hard time kind of lining it up and figuring out how to put it, get it together where it looked fairly well. So what I did is I decided to pick a place on the outline stamp to be able to, that's something that would be easy to find on the other images. And I put a Sharpie marker on the back side of this stamp. And then I took this image and I lined it up as best I could, trying to find where like these double petals are and some longer petals and things like that. And I lined that up as best I could and got it, and then I made a mark again on the back side of this stamp so that it would line up at the same place as the one on here. And then I took the die and I also lined it up against the image where I felt that it went, and I made another Sharpie mark on the back side, because that's what you're going to be laying down on the stamped image, so that I could find a way of lining these up. Of course, these are more watercolor secondary type images, and it's not meant to fit exact, so it won't be exact, but it will be a very good placement. So that was a tip I wanted to share with you. These color and contour scallop contours dies, they have many other uses for most of these. There's only 2 that cut out the flowers. The rest of these can be used for frames, for sentiments tags, for cutting an edge of a card or something like that. So it's a very versatile set that would be good to have in somebody's stamping supplies. So let's get started with the parts and pieces that we'll need for this class. So we're going to start with a base. This is 5 3/4 by 4 1/4, and we're going to be scoring that together. You will also have some 3 cardstock pieces of the same color cardstock, and it can be any color or whatever. I'm just doing the black and white with the pop of color. So you need 3 more of these that are measuring at 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, and these will fit on the other sides once we get this put together and forming the tower. We also need 3 pieces of the designer series paper, whichever you choose for your black and white. This again came from the pattern party. So one side has black and white images and the other side has a design and a color. And these are cut at 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, which is exactly the same as the main pieces. You're also going to need to have 3 of the coordinating color, whichever color, that pop of color you wanted. And these are some that I have out of I think it's a bright stack to match the color. And these will be at 2 inches across by 4 1/4. And then you'll also cut one of that same design from the black and white in the 2 inch by 4 1/4. And you'll see why when we go to put this together. because this is going to be on a page where you're also going to have a color strip. Now this color strip is coordinating with the color you're using, and this is 3/4 inch by 4 1/4, and that'll go on the same page. You're also going to need a piece of white designer series paper that is 2 by 4 1/4. So you're going to end up with 3, 4, 5 pieces that are that same size of 2 and 4 1/4. You're also going to need some things to put your, like there's some cardstock piece to stamp a sentiment on, a label to stamp, you know, whatever kind of labels you want, some circles, however you want to do some of your labels. I have already gone ahead and stamped those and gotten those ready to go. You're also going to need a scrap of white, basic white paper to do your stamping on. You're going to need 5 of the leaf images from this stamp set. Let me see if I can grab that again. So 5 of these. 2 of them I wanted to keep the little swoosh with it, but the other 3, this little thing didn't matter. I was going to cut them out, and there is not a die to cut that part out, but it's not very hard to cut those pieces out. And then I also wanted to kind of show you how it goes with stamping these images. So I used the Memento black for the outline pieces, and I just want to make sure that I get a good covering of the black ink. So, and on this scrap piece you're going to need to have 1 of these images and 2 of your outline for the full open kind of daisy looking flower. And this is a photopolymer stamp set, so you will want to use your Stampin' Pierce mat to be able to stamp that on. I used a longer strip in my class and had everybody stamp their images all the way up. So let me set that aside. You'll also need that white 2 by 4 1/4, and you're going to stamp that image on here as well. You may want to stamp that image after you've done a sentiment, because if you want a bigger sentiment down here, you may need to turn your flower so that it fits better. So there is that. And then there are the 2 pieces, are the stamps that kind of fill in this one. This image right here, it kind of lines up a little bit with these 3 big flowers and then the bud at the top, and you just kind of hold it over. That's another good thing about the photopolymer stamp sets, is you can see through those to kind of line up where those things need to go. I'm holding it down kind of low here so that I can see. But it isn't exact. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be kind of a watercolory image. And then I'll take, and this one, when I was stamping, I was noticing that my mark was up this direction. So when it comes to stamping this image, I'm going to kind of line up where I know that that mark was, and I'm also going to look at the petals to make sure that I'm kind of lining those petals up where they should go. And it gets it basically in the area. Again, it's not exact, but it is where I needed this to be. And then there. So there they kind of line up. And then you'll take your die and you'll cut these two or these three pieces out. So I'm going to set that aside because I already do have those pieces done. I don't have the leaves done yet, but I just wanted to show you. The dies cut them out very, very well. And then you'll need some little embellishments. You might want the sequins. Also a 13-inch length of this white glitter organdy ribbon. This has such a shimmer, just like the black was has such a sparkle. This one does too. So it would be great with Christmas cards and any other type of cards that you want a little bit of bling on. And so let's put these pieces away. And I want to show you, actually keep these out. I want to show you how to make the tower, the pinwheel tower. So put these inks away. I just wanted to cover that really quickly. So you will need your scoreboard or your trimmer. And again, this is 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. And you're going to want to score this in landscape position, so the long side is across the top. And you're going to score the first one, and I'm measuring up across on this right side of the track because I am right-handed and I need something to hold on to with my left hand so that I'm not trying to do it where I'm just holding it with the little guide here. So I'm going to use the gray or the lighter colored blade, and it's not even a blade, it's a scoring tool. And I'm lining this up at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to score. And it's basically 3/4 inch sections. I'm flipping that completely around so that the 3/4 inch is over here now. And then I'm going to line up again at 1 1/2, and I will score. And then I will line it up at 2 1/4, and I will score. And then at 3, and I will score. And I can put that out of the way. And so, I don't know if you can see those very well. I'm trying to, maybe the camera can pick it up. But you'll end up with 4 of these little box or sections. So you're going to take and fold those over, and you're going to kind of burnish that edge. Then you'll go to the next one, you'll fold it over, burnish that edge. You'll go to the next one, burnish that edge, and then fold that one over and burnish that edge. Now what's going to happen is these pieces are going to fold back over, and this first section is going to line up near this last score line, and it'll be up against this piece of cardstock. And what you're going to want to do before you do any kind of taping is you're going to want to fold that down, because if your score lines were off just a little bit, then you may have a little bit of wiggle room that needs to go that way. Then you're going to keep holding that in that place, and you're going to fold it back. This is the first score line. You'll keep that against the back side or this long piece of cardstock, and you'll fold that out so that this is the first, second, third score line, and just do the same thing. That way it kind of wears that in. And then what I would suggest using is either the white Tombow glue or Terran tape. I am going to use Terran tape. White glue has, I'm a very messy person when it comes to white glue, so I know my limitations and I work with it. So I use the Terran tape, right here. And this is the one that's going to line up against here, and then you're going to do this. So what you can do is fold that piece, that first section in, go over to the, not the second, but the third of the score lines, and you can fold that down. So what you're going to want to end up with is when you take these pieces off and you fold it here, it's going to line up and glue down on this last big part, big section here. So I'm going to use my take your pick tool, the piercing tool part. I'm going to take off the backings. Sometimes my fingernails work and sometimes they don't. So again, I'm leaving that first section folded over. I'm going to the third score line, and then I'm just going to fold that down. And then when I fold it any direction, it should fold and not have a problem. So you'll see that you end up with this kind of square box and a longer piece. Now what you're going to want to do, and you can do all of this right here, right up front, is you're going to put your tearing tape or your Tombow glue, whichever you want to work with. Tombow glue is a little more forgiving on being able to move things around, but if you're taking your time, and I'm just putting 2 on each section that is created by those score lines, just to be sure I'm holding it down well. And so you've got this right here, and these are all ready for some other pieces, these other pieces of cardstock. What you're going to do is you're going to, this piece is kind of creating that long edge here. So you're going to put the next one right there next to that, and then you'll take the next one and you'll put it against that one, and then the next one will be put up against that one. And so that will end up creating your pinwheel. So instead of taking more time on this, I'm going to go ahead and grab this other kit that I had out ready, so I can put that together for you. So this is the pinwheel portion, and it makes it where it folds flat to fit in a regular sized medium envelope. And if you fold these for your class or whatever, or for some kits, you can always take your bone folder and kind of go back and forth on it to straighten that back out. So I'm going to have us start with the skinnier of the designer series paper and this white piece for the card. So what you're going to end up doing, you want to have it when it folds down that the larger side is to the left and the smaller side is to the right. Or if you want to do it the other way, that it's not a big deal, you just basically flip everything around. I'm going to teach it with the smaller side on this side, so you're going to want to glue down this piece, and then you're going to want to glue this one so that there is no border. It's just going to go right up to the sides, and then this will go up here so that it lines up with that edge as well. So let me stick those on real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. And the reason that we're doing that on this one, that color strip is going to give us a really nice background for our ribbon. And the ribbon needs to go, line this up really well here, sorry. stick that there. And then again, you're seeing some of the back side of this pattern party paper, and it's got a color on the back and it's black and white on the other side. I'm actually going to hold that up so I can feel the edges of the cardstock, and then I can get that down and it'll be right. Then I'm going to take this color strip and put it down right against that score line edge and the edges of top and bottom. So that creates that part. Then you're going to take your ribbon and feed it down through the hole. And then you're going to tie a knot. Now, Christina Reese did share a tip here, and it is wonderful, but I forgot to bring my clamping tweezers, which means when you pinch them together, pinch the sides together, instead of closing, it opens, and then when you let it go, it actually closes and holds. And she uses that to hold the ribbon where she's going to tie it into that knot. But I forgot to bring mine over here to share that with you, but I do want to share that tip that she gave. And if you have some of those, it's really kind of a neat trick, because it sometimes takes about 3 or 4 hands to tie sometimes. Okay, I'll try it again. This time I'll start it there. Now grab that and pull. And then I have, just kind of need to fuss with it a little bit. And you might want to kind of move it up and down and trim your edges so that you get your little, come on, nice little trimmed ends on there. It's hard to see white on white, but you can see how by putting that color back behind that, it really makes that pop. And the ribbons that you do want to use are not the big fat thick ones. You're going to want to use something that's kind of sheer so that it will fold a little flatter. Then you'll continue on around the pinwheel by putting on your skinny sides, which are the color. We only use that one skinny black piece. Trying to line these edges up really well, and then it kind of tucks up under sometimes too. And if you end up getting some that hangs over, you can always cut that with your scissors later. And then the larger piece will go on the opposite side. And it doesn't show any of the black, and then you just do that around the rest of the sides. And then that's where you have the freedom to do a little designing with coming up with the sentiments that you want to use and the size that they need to be. You'll want to make sure that whichever side they fit on, that they're not going to go over each little panel, because they do have to flip and turn. There's that. Here is another piece. I it's always like with any other paper crafting project, the design is what takes the longest. The folds and things are just practical measurements, and it's the designing that you kind of need to take a little bit of time and figure out how you want things to look, and where you want your sayings and your images and things like that. Oops, and there is my last side. There we go. Now we're back to the starting point. So this is where you get to figure out some of these things, and you can use, there is an image in this that has a bunch of splotches, so if you wanted to add a little bit more kind of character to some of these sentiments, you could just stamp in the color some of those dots. Oops. Turn that back over. And that one only got part of it, so I'll come back and do the other side. And then I'll do this one again, just to give it a little bit of pop of color on those sentiments and a little bit of pizzazz. And then it's kind of just deciding where you want your sentiments and everything to go. And you could create some layers. Like I used the circles. You could use dies or punches, however, whichever you have, to create some layers even. And so this one is more of a friendship type one that I said, you're absolutely amazing, so glad we're here for each other, and hello, and somehow God knew I needed a friend just like you. And just using some of the sentiments I already have. Now with these flowers right here, it looks a little bit empty, and so I went and got my Daffodil Delight Stampin' Right marker, and you just add a little bit of another color. It's not really detracting from the black and white, but it just gives that extra pop that it needs. You could also put some gems or rhinestones or something in there and do have that. I would not encourage popping any of these up, because it would add more bulk to the card, unless you're just going to be hand delivering it to them. It's already pretty bulky as it is, and you really don't want to add any dimensionals to any of these things. So just to go back over, look at one of my finished cards. I added some sequins, and I added some rhinestones, some more rhinestones, and just some more sequins. You could add another any other types of stamps or things that you want, and then again, it does fit inside of a standard size envelope. And you could also decorate that with some of the colored paper on the flap. You could add a stamped image to the front and mail that off. It probably, if you make it with the cardstock as the center part, you probably will need to put some extra postage on it if you're not hand delivering it. If you want to take go look for Don Griffith's version that used the tube as a piece of designer series paper that made it a little bit less thick, then you might go over to YouTube and check that out. So I appreciate you stopping and watching me and sharing my love of paper crafting. I hope that you would like the video and subscribe and If you click the little bell after you subscribe, you'll be notified when I do upload videos. I do work a full-time job, and the Stampin' Up! Is something that I really enjoy doing. It keeps me happy, and so I do that as a secondary job. And so I generally only do videos once a month, classes once a month, and I have my blogs. So please go over and check it out. All the dimensions for this card are over on my blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com, and I'd love to have you check that out. Thank you.